Hey everyone. So we understood what all specific steps we take in the document ingestion phase, wherein we focus on finding the sources of the data and we use document splitter to convert that into chunks. Then with the help of embedding models, we try to convert that into vectors and we store this in the vector database. Okay. So in this video, we are going to focus on the second important step, that is query processing phase. Okay. Initially here, we are focusing more on the theoretical concept, but as we go ahead, we'll implement each and everything from the data ingestion pipeline to query for query processing for so generation phase. And then we'll try to build better RAG architecture by using these concepts. So now in the second important step, we are really going to focus on something called as query processing phase. So if you see over here, these are the steps that we are going to do. This, these are the steps that we are going to do. So we have query processing phase. Okay. Now in the query processing phase, what all things we will be learning as we go ahead. So till now, from the data ingestion pipeline, my database is ready, my vector database is ready. Let's say that here I'm going to draw a vector database. This is the vector database that which is ready over here. Okay. Now from this particular vector database, you know that how this vector database has been created. We have used some kind of data ingestion pipeline. Data ingestion pipeline. Now in the data ingestion pipeline, you know all the steps. I have my source of data, then you do the chunking of the specific data, then you convert this into vectors, right? Convert this into vectors, and then finally you store all this into your vector database. Now, in the query processing phase, we first of all take a input query, right? So here we'll be having my input query. We'll be having my input query. So that this is my input query. So from here, I will first of all have my input query. From this input query, you'll be able to see from this particular diagram. See, let's say that inside this vector database, I have stored information related to RAG. Okay, so all the information that is related to RAG. Now let's say in my input, let's say, hey, what is RAG? If this is my question, so first of all, what is this input query is? What will happen this input query? This input, that is what is RAG, will be converting into what? It will be converted into vectors. So here we're going to convert this into a vector by using embedding model. Okay, so here is my input query. And finally, after this embedding models, we are going to convert this in the form of vectors, right? So this will be some numbers, 0 0.3, 0 0.4, 0 0.6, like this, up to some numbers of some kind of dimensions, right? So this is the initial first phase, and that is the reason why we use embedding model. So over here, main focus is to basically convert this text to vectors. Okay. Now, once we convert this input query into vectors, the next step from this particular diagram, you can see that we can go ahead and hit a request on the vector database wherein we can apply different techniques like similarity search, cosine similarity and all. But the main aim is to find the most relevant chunk. So what we'll do after this, the vectors once it is converted, we'll go ahead and search the relevant text. Search the relevant text from this particular vector database. Okay. And here we can use different techniques. We can use techniques like cosine similarity, We can use technique like Euclidean distance. We can use, right? We can use different techniques. Okay. Now, once we are using these specific techniques, that basically means we are using these algorithms to find the most relevant text which is matching to the particular vector. Okay. Now, once we go ahead and search it, so the based on this, we'll be able to retrieve some information like whatever is matching for this particular vectors, right? For this text, that all match, you'll be able to get it from this particular vector database, right? So from here, you can see that after similarity search, you will be able to get from here, you will be able to get multiple different chunks of documents which will based on the match that is happening with respect to this particular vector. Let's say I get document 1, I get document 2, I get document 3. So these are nothing but these are the retrieval results. These are the nothing but retrieve results from the vector database. Now these retrieve results can further be used as a context to the LLM. So here, as we go in the next step, that is called as generation phase. So the next step that you'll be able to see is called as generation phase. Okay, generation phase, which we'll discuss in the next video. But once we get this context, now you know that with the help of this augment technique, right? Retrieval augmentation generation. With the help of this augment technique, we will enrich this context while we are retrieving from this particular database by adding some kind of metadata information, right? Why we are enriching it? So that we'll be able to get a very accurate output once my LLM is basically creating a summary. And once this is done, this enriched context will be sent to the LLM, which will be available in the next step. Okay. So in the query processing phase, we have seen that we have followed all these specific steps, and we got this augmented context plus original query plus retrieve chunks, right? And now this step, we will be sending it to a large language model, and finally we'll be generating the response. So this was about the query processing phase. And let me tell you guys, because of this augmentation, right, we are able to generate a very good content over here. Context that is basically coming out of the vector database will be very much accurate. The reason is we'll have more database information over here. And as we go ahead, we'll go step by step. We'll first of all start with this. I'll show you how to parse multiple and different kinds of data from JSON to PDF to doc to website, how to convert that into chunks, how do we probably apply different embedding techniques, and how do you work with different vector database, and then from here, how to take input query, how to convert that into text to vector, how to search this vector database, how to bring that retrieve results, how to add enrich text, enrich the context that we are going to take. And this context, it will be added with the original query like what is rag plus whatever the enriched context that we are getting, and then it will be given to the model, LLM model. So this is really important. I hope now you are able to understand what all specific thing we do in a query processing phase, right? Now the third phase is very simple, generation phase. In the generation phase, whatever context we are getting from here, here I'm just going to go ahead and create a LLM model. This information is going to go to the LLM model. Okay, this information is basically go into the LLM model, and here we can use different LLM models. Different LLM models like OpenAI, we can go ahead with Grok, we can go ahead with Llama. Grok provides a lot of open source model. Llama is also available over there. You can also go ahead with Google Gemini model, right? So here we are getting the entire original query plus context, and finally, out of the LLM, you will be able to get the summarized output. Summarized output. And this is how the entire pipeline of a RAG actually looks like. Document ingestion and processing, query processing phase, and mainly generation phase. And by this, we basically get the generated output, and we get that output to the user, right? So the best part is that LLM will be able to summarize in a very lovely way, like how a human language is. Uh, in that context, you'll be able to get it, like it will be like how you're having a conversation with anyone, right? So these were some of the core components of RAG. Now, what we are going to do in the next video is that in the next series of videos, we are going to start our practical implementation of document ingestion phase. I'll start showing you how you can go ahead and read and parse. Parsing is very important because how do we read this PDF? How do we read this Word doc? How do we read this website? Everything is shown as this. So I hope you like this particular video. This was it from me for this particular video. Thank you and happy learning.